UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome to Fanchise Fatigue, the little podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network, where your hosts take a look at movies, sequels, and remakes, and then we discuss them for you. My name is Brandon-Shea, and joining me, as always, is 30-year-old Pretty Blue Flower, also known as Zach Moore, but he's almost 40.
Konnichiwa, Brandon.
Mushi mushi.
Do those both mean hello in Japanese? I guess I don't know.
I don't know. I think so. I think konnichiwa is probably like formal, and then like mushi mushi is like, hey, what's up?
More appropriate for me then, of course. So,
yes,
Brandon, we're talking about Sanjuro, aka
Yes,
Yojimbo 2: First Blood. So,
I like that actually. Yojimbo 2: First Blood Sanjuro.
No, it would be Sanjuro : Yojimbo Part 2 First Blood or something. I don't know. I'm trying Rambo, everybody. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So,
yeah, I get it. There's definitely some first blood in this movie.
Indeed. Not as much as last time, though. We can talk about that. But this is you've seen this one before, right?
Oh, many times, yeah.
Okay. I've never seen this one before. So all these films in this entire franchise are new to me. So as always, it's a fun experience to check out these, because like with a franchise like the Terminator I'm so intimately familiar with, this it's brand new. Because if you haven't seen it, it's new to you, and these are all new to me. So any other first thoughts then before we jump into the trivia?
For me, well, this would be like my millionth thoughts, but I like this movie a lot. And I'm looking forward to hearing your reactions. We don't have Tom. You guys might have noticed that we don't have Tom with us today. We had a little bit of a scheduling snafu, and so we had to postpone the recording of this. But Tom did send us his thoughts, and so we will edit those in near the end of the episode, because he did watch it and he did want to tell us what he thought of the movie. So we will have the continuing thread of our foreign correspondent, our brother from another mother.
Yes, and the scheduling stuff, it was completely my fault. I take full responsibility. So
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to leave it at that.
Brandon even made a joke about it in the last podcast, and we just cut it out. But yes, it was completely my fault that because Tom and Brandon were ready to go, and I was like, oh. So I take full responsibility. So I will commit Harabe
Seppuku.
It's Harabe is the villain's name, I think, and it's again the Japanese terms. It makes it a little confusing. But I will fall on my own sword here on that one and die an honorable suicide and move on from that.
It's just a podcast. You don't have to. It's all good, buddy. It's okay.
All right. Well, getting into the trivia for Sanjuro. This movie was originally going to be an adaptation of a Yamamoto novel called Peaceful Days, Shigeru Yamamoto, to be more precise. And it was going to be made before Yojimbo, and it was about a group of samurai who were helped out by two ronin, but they're inadequate fighters, and they all have to use their wits to trick two opposing sides into killing each other off. So it's actually similar to Yojimbo as well. The antagonists were changed to a government body, and tricking the two sides, that element was moved over for use in Yojimbo. And then after Yojimbo was a success, Toho, the production studio of these films, requested that Akira Kurosawa make a sequel. So he changed the characters of the two weak ronin of the original story that this was based off to Sanjuro. Well, Yojimbo.
Well, no, Yojimbo's the bodyguard, so Sanjuro was his name. It's like it's part of his name, right?
Sanjuro was his name. O-E-I-E-I-O. Anyway, so they take that. It's kind of like Die Hard, and one day we'll do Die Hard on here, where there's these scripts, And it's like, this could be a Die Hard movie, and they put John McClane in it. That's basically what happened to this, just in Japan in the 60s, right?
So could this be a Die Hard movie? I've never seen any of the Die Hard movies, so I don't know.
You know, I'm gonna hot take here, right? Moment of truth. I haven't either. I know them very well. It's like one of my big movie shames. It's like I've never seen Die Hard, but I know it so well through the pop culture and all that. But no, I mean, I can quote all the one-liners from the "Welcome to the party, pal," and you know, all that stuff from the first movie. But I haven't seen either, so that'll be. We need to get a Die Hard expert on here when we do those, because we are both horribly inaccurate, inequipped, and ill-prepared to discuss that.
Yes.
But anyway, point being, this was a story that was going to be a movie, and then Yojimbo happened first, and they took some elements, and it kind of became something new, and was reimagined into a sequel to Yojimbo, this time titled Sanjuro. They didn't do, sequels, they didn't do like 2 back then. It was like Yojimbo 2. So it was a logical title, I think, to kind of carry on from the first film. Now,
wasn't The Godfather the first movie to have like a part 2? This is off topic here.
I think so. I know that Jaws 2 was the first movie to have like the Arabic number 2, not the Roman numerals. Okay. I mean, obviously there have been many sequels, Son of Kong and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you're right. I don't know. Again, we are such great movie scholars here, guys. But yeah, it's thinking back over cinema. Although there were franchises, not in the way we think of them today, there were sequels. But The Godfather Part 2 really might have been the only one with literally that in the title. Yeah. Because marketing became an important thing, And to go on a complete side tangent here, this kind of reminds me. You think about, because this is what we're all about here. You think about branding and franchises, but back then sequels were seen as like lazy, so they tried to like mix it up. Like, Toho Studios made these films. I'm a big Godzilla aficionado. And so I'll use an example here. Godzilla, King of the Monsters in America, was Gojira in Japan. And then in Japan, they made a sequel the next year called Godzilla Raids Again, or Godzilla's Counterattack, also with Gojira in the name. But when it came over here to America, they're like, oh, Godzilla died. He's old news. We need to change it up. So they literally changed the name of the movie to Gigantus the Fire Monster. And when they dubbed over the movie, they took out the name Godzilla, and they called him Gigantus the whole time. And because sequels are like, oh, no, sequels are bad. People don't want to see those. So anyway, it's interesting how that's changed. Also, in this film, to wrap back around, there are a lot of actors who are in the Godzilla films. And like literally half of the samurai here are people are very prominent roles in the Godzilla films. The one I noticed the most was Akihito Hirata. He played Dr. Serizawa in Godzilla. He's the scientist with the eye patch. If people have seen the poster of Godzilla or aren't familiar with the franchise, but if you've seen the movies, you know what I'm talking about. And then there's some other actors, Akira Kubo and Takashi Shimura. Like, these guys are there, and some of them are actually in the first. Some of these actually were in Yojimbo, and there's a lot of actually characters and actors. Well, I should say there are a lot of actors who are in Yojimbo who are in this, but as different characters as well, which I thought was interesting. Again, they didn't think about that back then, about recasting characters, recasting actors as new characters in a franchise. I think one of the most obvious ones, or not obvious, but like the biggest one, I would say, is if you remember the guy with the gun from the first film, Tatsuya.
The guy with the gun.
The guy with the gun, Tatsuya Nakadai. And I might be pronouncing it wrong. I apologize. But he was the character with the gun in Yojimbo. He is now the other, Ronin in this film. Sanjuro's kind of counterpart on the other side, the main villain of this film. He has a different haircut, which is. What do you think of these haircuts, by the way, on all these samurai?
I don't know. They seem like samurai haircuts to me.
I mean, I'm sure they're period accurate, but it's like they all look very silly to me in my 21st century Western sensibilities. right?
Yeah.
But and I do wonder how they did. I don't have the trivia on that, but I do wonder
Okay,
how
so
they
I'm not
did it.
thinking of this off the top of my head here. So what is it about the haircuts? Because I've seen so many samurai that I'm not even placing it. Is
Well,
it the shaved top?
It's the completely shaved top of their head, and I wonder, like, did these actors all do that, or did they wear some kind of bald cap? You know, I think back in the '60s, it was a lot more efficient to just, okay, we're going to just shave the top of your head for a few weeks instead of if they made a movie today with like Hollywood actors, they're like, well, I'm not going to shave my head, and they make all these, they spend hours getting prosthetics on their head and stuff like that. But as far as I can tell, they really shave their heads.
No, they
for this.
did. And that's a common thing that you see in samurai films is the top shaved. I don't know all the history of it. The one thing that I do know is like the top knot that they have in the back there is like a very important thing for samurai. And in Seven Samurai, I'm sorry, I don't know these guys' actors' name. I apologize, but the guy that's in Godzilla, he is in Seven Samurai, and in order to help save a baby, he actually completely shaves his head like a Buddha. And this is like some really shocking thing that a samurai would cut off his hair and cut off his top knot completely. So, but yeah, that top part is like very, very common that samurai don't have that.
Very good, very good. And speaking of samurai, Yojimbo, which means bodyguard, not samurai. I see I tried to do a segue, it didn't work. But moving on, the opening title music for this film, Sanjuro, is the same opening title music for Yojimbo, the main theme. Now, I will say I liked the opening credits of Yojimbo better because it was something. You know, you're following him down a road as opposed to white text on a black screen. And if I had one critique of these amazing Criterion Blu-rays that I have of these films, is I wish the subtitles were in yellow instead of white, because sometimes it's hard to read them. When you're watching a black and white film and there's white subtitles on it, you know, sometimes it's hard to make out. Did you have any trouble with that, Brandon, or are you just cool with it?
Maybe you got like cataracts or something and you like can't distinguish.
Well, again,
I don't know.
To go back to Godzilla, I don't have that awesome Criterion set yet, but I do have some other Godzilla DVDs which are subtitled, and for the black and white ones, they have yellow subtitles. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because I can read it.
None of the
now.
Criterions are in yellow.
Okay.
They're all in white.
Wonderful.
So I'm just used to it. So.
I can't wait.
Remember, I have like 700 Criterion, right?
That's true. Very good. Now, speaking, you know, we were talking about Sanjuro's name in this film, and he gave a different name in his first film, and he gives it. He's the man with no name, right? So he has he has a name in Yojimbo, and he uses the name Sanjuro carries over, but he changes his surname, or I guess that's what it is. But he goes by Tsubaki Sanjuro, which means 30-year-old camellia, which is a flower, which plays an integral part of the plot here. But it's the same exact beat where someone's like, "What's your name anyway?" Yes. And then he like looks around and he sees some plants, and the camera zooms into the plants, and that's what he tells the people. And I like the reaction of the crowd. Like, you're very Griffin.
Griffin.
Exactly. Nope. But I like the reaction of the people around him. They're like, you're a very strange man. So at least they picked up on that was very odd. Now the camellias that were used in the film, they were all artificial. And the leaves were real, were taken from a Sakai plant, and every morning before shooting, the leaves were replaced to prevent them from looking old. So it's all the movie making people. They weren't hacking away at real plants. They had already killed the plants. So when you see them hacking away at the plants, it's not a crime against nature. That crime was committed off screen when they did the set decoration. So
movie magic.
And then the scene where the single blossom falls into the stream, it was a difficult effect to pull off. Originally, the crew was considering using piano wire, but they were afraid that the light reflecting onto the piano wire, the glint, would show up on camera. So a costume designer suggested if you unravel a woman's stocking and use the nylon of that stocking, due to its strength and invisibility, it would get the job done. And it worked. So property master Shoji Jinbo said the happiness he felt at that moment was, quote, indescribable, because they had solved an issue with an unsurmountable issue with what they were trying to accomplish there with that special effect. And that reminds me of the leaf effect in the first film, where they were talking about throwing the knife and all that. So it's cool how these little tricks, not major special effects, just little things, and they're really effective in the final film.
Yeah.
Now, when Sanjuro was about to kill, when he tricks everybody and he kills all the big group of people, about a dozen of them, of Kikui's men, he smacks 3 of the young samurai, and Toshiro Mifune smacked them for real on set, and it surprised all the actors, and you can see it when they get hit and they get knocked backwards. So that was not scripted. And finally, the explosion of blood at the final, I would call it a duel, but it's more of a standoff that immediately ends. We can talk about that. But it was chocolate syrup mixed with carbonated water and put under 30 pounds of pressure to simulate that explosion of the blood. And that was very effective. For a